Hey guys, Daniel James here, and today I'd like to do something a little bit different. Whereas normally I'll review a sample library or do a blog or something like that, and there are more of those coming. But today, what I wanted to do is I wanted to do like a video input on a VI control thread that's going on at the minute about MachFive3, and more specifically the granular synthesis within MachFive3 and the abilities that that gives you. Now, most of you who know me know that I like to do a lot of sound design and all that kind of crazy stuff. So I thought I'd show you a few techniques that you can use in something like MachFive3 to make, I have no idea what I'm going to make yet, so I'm going to do it. So what is MachFive3? It's basically like, best way to think of it is like Contact. A lot of you have used Contact before. It's a sample playback engine. Which, if you know how to use, can also become like an effect unit or just a basic sampler, which it is. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to do some edits. So I've got a track here which I wrote for a Sonic fan film. Long story, don't ask. But so here's like just a little bit of the track, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to load this track into MachFive3 and see what we can do with it. So I'll just click through a few bits. Anyway, big epic, all that good stuff. So all I need to do is, on the other screen, you can't see this, but I'm clicking on, I'm going to click and drag the track, the MP3 file, as you can see here, and just drop it into this area here. It says no key group selected. Just drop that in. And there's the track. So if I hold a key, it'll play back. If I play up high, it plays back high. That, like you'd expect a sampler to do. But if you come up here and you click on this little thing, you get a load of different options on what you actually want to control. So like if I was to click stretch, it will change this into a stretch format. Which means if I play high pitch, instead of playing fast to compensate for the high pitch, it will stretch that sample and keep it in time with what it was. But, you got those weird artifacts, which can be cool in itself. So it's got its own sound. But what we're going to look at today is the IR Cam Granular. Now, granular synthesis, the best way to look at it is to think of sound being broken up into its individual samples, like each little slice, or think of it like little dots all together floating around that make up a sound. So what granular synthesis does is basically rearranges these little samples that make up a sound, and it rearranges them in different orders and gives you the opportunity to play them back in fun little ways. So if I was to play the key now, the root key, I don't think it is actually in C, but it might be. But if I was to play up like an A, now that in itself doesn't sound very interesting, but one of the cool things that you can do with it, and this is pretty much what the VI control thread, which I'll link down in the description, was based about, is using it as a time freezer. So a few little things you need to do just to set up the time freezing. So first thing is you want to turn the speed all the way down. Let me just pick a better position within the track. So we'll pick somewhere here where the choir is. And then all we need to do is drag down this speed to 0, and it'll sound crap. And obviously that's not what you want in a freezer. But then what you have to do is just turn up this density. That's the amount of grains. That's what they're called. They're called grains. That's why it's called granular synthesis. And the grain size. Now we should have something a little closer. Or maybe not. So all we have to do now is turn up this jitter. And this basically just rearranges the samples. Because right now you're getting that sound because it's just playing back the grains in a linear fashion. So it's just playing them in the order they are. So you're getting that kind of machine gun effect over and over again. Whereas jitter takes like the surrounding ones and ones that make sense. So now if I push a key, I'm kind of getting little bits and pieces from the surrounding area to make up a more satisfying individual note. So, I can play it low. And the cool thing about this is I can move this position anywhere I like. So and we could just mess with these dials a little bit, just turn the direction down for now. So there we've got like a weird kind of a choiry kind of thing, just by using one individual position within the track. And you've got a nice little bass pad I could bring up. Now there's a cool sound. As you'll notice, when I push a key, it starts and stops. To change that, you come down, amp envelope. So we just want it to attack slow like a pad, maybe a couple of seconds in, and then release a bit quicker. One thing I like about MachFive3 over Contact is the ability to actually change the actual shape of the attack and release. So, well, you could do it in Contact. It's just here, you just click and drag, which is always fun. So now we've got more of a pad type. So that's all well and good. Let's put it back to that little first bit. Now, you see, I like the way that sounded. So the way you could... If only there was a way to move it back and forward. There is. I don't know why I said it like that. So what I basically want it to do right now is I want it to kind of go... So what I can do, and this is one of the coolest features in my opinion about MachFive3, is you right click on any of these dials and it brings up a little menu. And I can add, it's much in the way that Omnisphere works. You can just right click and add a modulation, which I absolutely adore about MachFive3. So I can take the speed, and what I want it to do is, in fact, no, not the speed. Let me put the speed to a constant. Maybe just 20. And then what I want to do is make it so direction goes forward. We'll put the speed up to 1. And then we can have it go forward. And go back like that, just so we get this cool weird sound. So let's add a modulation, come down to the programs, and let's select an LFO, low frequency oscillator, which basically means I can make it go upon a set path or a set shape. So in this case, it's going to go at the shape of a sine wave. So I can hold the key. As you can see, it's already doing exactly what I want. Let me just position it a little bit better. A little bit more. A little bit. And now if I hold Apple on the Mac, I can move it very, very gently. Here we go. A little bit further back, so let's go like here. Too far. So there you see, we're using. So now this is something that you can't really do with a plug-in like Time Freezer, you know, being able to modulate things like this. So I'm just going to add this a little bit further back. And now the cool thing is I can bring up this LFO. I clicked it down here, but you don't have to. You right click, edit modulations, and it loads up that modulation that's controlling that parameter. So I right clicked on the direction, edit modulation. So now I'm seeing the modulations for this particular thing. And if you click this little metronome thing here, all these dials become tempo sync to the host. So of course I can speed this up. Let's put it to like I don't know, something crazy like a 16th. This will sound horrible, I think, but let's take a listen. An 1/8. So the speed hasn't got enough time to make the direction go, but let's turn it up to 16. Let's whack it on a square. Now you see, because it's just changing the direction, it's still being controlled by the speed. So doing something like that to try and get rhythmic might not work as well as I thought it would in my head. But so let's put it to like a 1. I know it's all sounding a bit weird right now. We'll get there. We'll get there, don't worry. So on the fly, you know, we can change things like, you know, other than the position, like we can change the grain size. See what that does. So now let me take this and add a modulation to this. Let me put an LFO on it, like I was trying to do with the direction, but it didn't work. So now let me put like a ramp down, and then just by clicking this, I'll put it on the middle of the screen so you can see what I'm doing. But grain size, edit modulation. So what I want to do here is, you'll see this little blue thing that shows you basically what's happening. And at the minute it's going way too far away, so I just want to pull down the amount it's actually affecting. And that is the amount it's affecting the parameter. So now it's only affecting a little bit. So let's make this a 16th like I was trying to do. As you can hear, we got this really weird twisted sound now. It's starting to come together, and that's just by using the granular synthesis. I'm not using any effects or anything like that, just modulating the dials that control the you know, the parameters of the granular synthesis. Now, if you play up high, you're going to get something different than if you play down low. And that's only because of the grain size. Really, you can hear the difference in the higher grains. So the higher up you get, the more of that effect will sound. Now, there's a lot of mid information there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and click on the effects. So now we're going to jump into the effects unit, and I'm going to click on browse over here. And this brings up, normally you can scroll through like, you know, all your bits and bobs here, but we want the effects. So, you know, here's another cool thing about MachFive3 is you get a lot of cool actual effects units to use. But what we're going to dump on it right now is we're going to grab an EQ. We're just going to cut out some of those really thick frequencies. And if I remember correctly, to turn this on, you right click it. There we go. So as you can see here, I'm just basically cutting around 100 hertz. One thing I notice a lot of people doing when they're EQing, I've seen people EQ on YouTube and things, and they'll normally they'll quote something like a website. They'll say, well, if I want to cut the boxiness out of sound, I need to cut down at 200 hertz or something. And they don't listen to the sound. They think that that's just like a set in stone thing. The best way to do EQ is to normally a thinner cue like this, a thinner band like this. And then what you do is you call, it's called frequency sweeping. And what you do is you play your note, and then whilst it's playing, you move this across. And when you find a shit sounding bit, you stop and you cut. So I wanted to get rid of the really muffled bit, the bit that's making it sound really kind of sounding. So what I'm going to do is play the note, find that, and then cut it. maybe around here, but a bit wider. Not that wide. So cool, and now I just want to give it a little bit more air, so I'll just boost up a little bit higher. So now it doesn't sound quite as in your face. Now it's got a bit more kind of depth to it. So let's do something like add some reverb. Let me just whack that in there. This is the sparkle verb. I love this because it's got a preset which is like endless. So it just kind of goes on forever. You can hear that tail just kind of goes on forever. We don't want that though. Let's just pick something like a concert hall, place it in a room. And now we can do some like fun little just adding effects to it. So let me try again. I'm just doing this on the fly, so I have no idea what's gonna sound like. Let me add a comb filter. Another cool thing I forgot to mention is you can actually rearrange these on the fly. So if I wanted the comb filter to be before the reverb, you know, that's cool. I have no idea if this will sound any good, but let's try adding a. Let me try a multi-stage envelope. So a multi-stage envelope basically looks like this. You know, I'm not sure how. Oh, you double-click to add extra things. So I want to tempo sync it. Is there a way to actually sync this to the? Yeah. So as you can see, that's an eighth note. Eighth dot. 16. I mean, this isn't really doing anything yet that I can hear, so I'll probably change this in a second, but it's going a bit too quick. I think that's why. What do we do? We want to... Yeah, I don't hear this doing anything. So a cool feature. Well, not a cool feature, just a useful one. If I don't like the modulations, cleared. So now it has no modulations on it. Let me try adding an LFO, see if that works. You can very clearly hear that one. So let me turn down. So now let's add like a ramp up, and let's tempo sync it because we can. Maybe. So I know that rhythm is actually going with the tempo. So. I don't like that at all, so that can leave. Let's try some other filters. Don't like that either. So I think the sound as is right now is actually better than if I was to add some effects. Maybe auto wah. I'll give auto wah a chance. the hell was that? Okay, that was a bad example. Okay, so we've got like this cool sound. We've added the effects. We've added the you know, that could end up being a cool sound to use within itself. But one of the cool things, so this sound right now is quite aggressive, mainly because the song in the background is aggressive. And one of the cool things, it's either cool or horrifyingly annoying, depending on when it happens. But let's say I was just doing a little test of that sonic theme when I was writing it. I used the Blackus, I probably pronounced that wrong, the Blackus cello, the free cello sample library. Just testing it out. And, you know, I didn't put much effort into it. And so that track never got used, but I can make use of it now. And if this is what I was saying is either cool or annoying, is if you were to drag a sample over the top of one you've already put in, it just replaces it. So all those settings, all those effects I put in are now applied to a different sound. So if I push a key now, and you hear now I've got something reminiscent of like a nice pad. So if I change that speed down a little bit. I'm actually going to clear the modulation. I'm not sure what I clicked on there, but I want to clear the modulation from the grain size because I don't want that that rhythmic thing anymore. So as you can hear, we've got now we've just got like a major pad. And I'm just using the, instead of just freezing it in one specific spot, I'm using the granular synthesis to use that technique where it's taking the grains from around it to make a unified whole instead of having that sound, which it would sound like if it was like this. Which you may want. I mean, it's got its own sound, that's for sure. I'm using the jitter, and because I'm not freezing it in a place, because you'll see the direction that it's moving at this speed. I've now created like a pad that can evolve over time, because you see I can change the speed of this by adding an LFO to the speed. So now if I click, we'll tempo sync it, but we'll have it go every like 4 bars. It goes over a very small amount. Okay, that was a big amount, but like a very small amount. So you see the speed's just a bit faster, and it slows down. So as you can see, it gets wide. So the pad now gets wider, and then it gets smaller. And I think if I put this on an offbeat, it'll actually start moving around. And it's just adding just a nice little bit of interest to it. So let's put it on somewhere where there's a bit of action. And now if we up the speed just a little bit, we'll get a lot more movement. And that makes for a very nice, it's a pad that's got its own texture, it's got its own feeling. And, you know, one of the reasons it's got that feeling is because it's moving around and it's pulling little grains from all over the place. So I can, you know, I might want to put like a delay or something. Have we got delays? Yeah, we got delays. Of course we got delays. Let's put a stereo delay on. And keep in mind, again, I'm moving this position by hand. I'm scrubbing through the track to find a good position. Of course, I can add a modulation to that. Let me try. I'm just going to put it on an LFO. LFOs are easy for modulating. I'll do like a more in-depth thing once I learn how to use the step sequences more. I haven't used this properly for a while now, but let's have it so that every 8 bars it moves by itself. No, it should come back. But it's moving a little bit too much, so we just want just a tiny little. And you hear how we've all of a sudden got this really cool pad-like sound that's come from another piece of music. I mean, let me drag in, I don't know, let me drag in something of Hans, because Hans is the man of texture. So let me drag in something from Gladiator. I won't be playing the track, so no piracy things here. And I wouldn't use someone else's track for the thing, but something that's got a really nice texture. I'm just going to clear the modulation from there. So this is taking, you know, just a piece of music that's really well constructed. And you know, you can see instantly how there's music to be found in almost anything. I mean, let me drag in like a sample. This will probably be a little less pleasing to the ear than what I just showed you. But like, let's say I drag in an impact sound from Project Alpha. Here we go, a whoosh bang. So let me put the position. I'll bring this speed right back down. I'm actually going to take the direction here. I'm going to make it so it doesn't go quite as crazy. I wonder if I can assign this to... Yeah, let me try assigning this to the mod wheel. Ah, you see, this is why I thought I'd do this on live, because I discover things. Okay, so I've assigned the position, if you look down here, to the mod wheel. So I'm moving the mod wheel up and down. So on the fly, I can now treat this like a pad. So let me just play like... And I can slowly... And keep in mind, while I'm moving the position with the mod wheel, these direction and speed things are still going, so it's still kind of swaying between the notes. So you're still getting that kind of organic feeling of movement. I can increase the intensity by dragging it into a bigger area. You know, I could use that for an entire creative horror score. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if I've got any single note things. So let me try finding a multi-sample that's just a single note. I wonder how this will work. Again, I'm not fully sure how well this will work, but let me drag in like a ping. This is one of the ping sticks. And if any of you were wondering what that sample was, it was this. So I turned that, you know, you can turn that. It's already using all the same parameters that I preset, all the same effects. I just dragged over the top, and you know, I can on the fly just try things. But now let's try something that's not tonal, like a Grand Casa. Oh, bit of Skype. Let me just close that down. So now we've got. So, one of the bad points about MachFive3 is it's not very. I don't know what you would say. It's not very optimized sometimes. Like for example, when you're using lots of keys in the granular synthesis mode, you use a lot of CPU. So if I push lots of keys, you'll see in the top right how it jumps from, you know. And this, you know, so I'm hitting 50% CPU and I'm only touching a few notes, you know. However, if you're sound designing, you know, if you're making yourself some instruments, like what I tend to do for a film or something is I'll have a few sessions where I just make sounds, you know, sounds that kind of fit the tone of the film I'm working on. Then I'll bounce those down and I'll save them as, you know, just a bank of sounds that I can call up and, you know, manipulate when I actually get to the writing stage of the film. So, you know, I could take this. You know, bounce it down to a wave, and then I can affect that in the thing. You know, I could save this patch, call it up so I can make manipulations once I get there. So, I mean, for things like that, it's kind of cool. Let me drag in something Metal Gear. You see, I'm a bit of a Metal Gear fan, so. I mean, this is where the fun of it comes from. I mean, I'm not advocating, and there's definitely rules against using other people's samples in your music. There's a whole part of the law that talks about that. So I'm not recommending you take other people's music and then you know, use this technique to put it into your sample, you know, into your own music. But for playing around, you know, it's actually quite fun to reach into music. So this is what Metal Gear Solid 3. Wherever that is. Well, I lost it. But it's this, I think, whatever this is. Metal Gear Solid 3 themes. Now let's see if we can find some cool bits of music in here. And of course, there's things here like pitch variation, position variation. So this will randomly kind of, like I'm doing here, but a bit more random. It'll just add a bit more random variation. If you choose pitch variation, it goes. So as you can hear, I'm just pulling little samples out of the music. So, I mean, a cool thing you could try is, you know, pulling up tracks you really love, whacking them in MachFive3, see if you can find something, as a particular type of sound you like, and then try to not recreate the song. I'm not saying that you rip off the song, but, you know, you pick up the orchestration, you know, instruments they're using that seem to work well with granular synthesis. Write a track for yourself, and then drag the whole track into MachFive3, and then find pieces of it. And, you know, just pull little parts out of it that you may not have, that otherwise just wouldn't be useful. You know what I mean? So you may write a track, the track gets rejected. That track doesn't have to go in the trash bin. Drag it into MachFive3 and see if there was little combinations of sounds that when taken, you know, when you take a snapshot of it, works in a whole new context. It's like, imagine you're painting a painting. You paint this really beautiful, like, picture, but the, you know, your person who's buying it or your teacher doesn't like it very much. So instead of throw the painting away, you could perhaps cut out one of the little characters you've painted and then put it on to another painting, but but use it in a whole new creative thing. Use that as its own little stamp, you know, or, you know, take just the background and stick it on the background and then paint over it. You know what I mean? You could do things like that sonically with the music, you know. You could take little snapshots. So let's put the modulation back on, the grain size. Just drag this down a little bit. Put this back on. What did I have it on? I'm just going to pull this speed up a little bit so it's a bit more. I'm going to edit this so that it so the direction's a bit more forced like it used to be. You see, so you've got like all these really cool textures, and you know, and that's all just coming from taking a song and then pulling out little snapshots of it, you know, using the granular synthesis. And you know, I only scratched the surface of things you can actually do with MachFive3 today. So, you know, there's plenty of other things you can try. You know, there's different types of sampling modes, and you know, you can really get crazy. Like I say, I'll maybe do another video in the future that shows like how to use the multi-stage envelope and, you know, things like that, so you can actually handcraft how you want the you know, the modulations to move. And remember, you can modulate all of these. You know, I wonder if you can modulate the effects. So yeah, I can modulate the frequency, which was the frequency band, this one. So let me modulate that just because I can with an LFO. So like, grab this and I'll peak it instead. I'll move it up to the higher frequency so you can actually hear what it's doing. You can probably hear that. So you can add, you can add modulation to any of the effects. And so you can really start making sounds that evolve over time and, that change and manipulate to fit whatever it is you're going from. And all of this can be done with tracks that you thought were completely useless. You may have written a track before, nobody liked it, whack it in MachFive3, pull out little bits of it, and you've given it a whole new, all that time you spent writing it wasn't wasted because you found something in it which then becomes useful in the future. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video today. As you may have noticed, the sound is a little bit different. I've tried to cut out a lot of the noise in the background. I'm using a microphone that's directionally pointed at my face so I don't go loud and quiet like some people have commented. It's got a little bit of compression, so I may have overdone it. But hey, it's not a review. It's just a little look at something today. Like I say, I'll put the link to the forum thread in the description if you wanted to go check that out. I do recommend getting involved in VI Control if you're not already. It's full of fantastic composers who know way more than I do about things. There's plenty of professionals that work there, TV, film, game composers. They all check it out. And this one in particular is just about granular synthesis. So I felt the need to try it out and do it live. Do it live. Sorry. Yeah, I thought I'd do a video live instead of like one with a pre-prepared track for a change. So I hope you guys have enjoyed watching me experiment with it, and I hope you kind of got what I was going for. And yeah, feel free to leave comments down below or on the VI Control thread about what you think. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Okay, thanks. Bye.